We are just ending an important year in Afghanistan, starting last November with the inauguration of President Karzai in his second term. It was exactly this week, these days, that we in Kabul came together to listen to his speech, which was setting a national agenda for the next 5 years. And this year, I think, is the end of almost a decade that we feel that an era is going to be ended in a new one that's going to start. And that is where we talk about the transition from war to peace, transition from an international guided process to an Afghan-led one, from an international primary role to Afghan primary role. So the preparation for the transition in the last year, which started last year, was eventful, which would allow us to launch the transition next year in January, and we are now ready for such a move. During this year, the government of Afghanistan, in collaboration and close work with the international community, tried to engage the Afghan people in the move towards the transition. We also worked to define the roadmap of the next 5 years. And also we focused on how to renew our partnership with the international community and engage other stakeholders in the region in a process that should lead to a peaceful and stable Afghanistan. The sequence of events demonstrates the importance of that year. It was in November last year, at the beginning of the second term, President Karzai launched his national agenda. In January, we came together in London with the representative of the international community to map out our next stage of action together and to look at the situation and to find out how we can move from where we find ourselves in a situation that needs to be addressed differently. In May, the presidents of Afghanistan and the United States and the high-level ministers came together in Washington to see how to detail and to discuss the new focus on Afghanistan. In June, we convened the Afghan Peace Jirga, where we brought together all representatives of Afghans from all segments of the society. And we tried to not only discuss the ways for peace and reconciliation in the country, but the engagement of people in the peace process. In July, we had the Kabul conference with the participation of more than 70 countries and international organizations, which was unprecedented in the history of Afghanistan and unprecedented maybe to that extent in the history of the region. And we there the details of a new compact between the government of Afghanistan and Afghan people, and also the government of Afghanistan and the international community was worked out, and which helped to the crafting of the Kabul process, which is the basis of the years ahead for our work. So we had then in September parliamentary elections, and some more than 5 million people participated in these elections, and still the Afghan election monitoring bodies are trying and working hard to deal with the difficulties of the elections and to make sure that an outcome that's acceptable for Afghans and that is needed to be announced soon. At the same time, I think there is a cross-cutting issue of regional cooperation was in the focus, and the leadership of Afghanistan tried to reach out to our immediate neighbors, to the countries in the region, and to engage all these the neighborhood in the process, and also in the transition. So we, as we know, that the Afghan leadership met with the government leaders of the region. Sorry, it is being. I see one of my colleagues are here, being an ambassador in the UN. In the days that we discuss resolutions on Iran, Myanmar, and North Korea and others, that would require not to off your phone. Right? So the Afghan leadership had extensive discussions with the neighboring countries. The Afghan presidents and leaders were in China in March, and India in April, in Japan in June, in Pakistan in September, and there was also a number of trilaterals: the Pakistan, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and also the quadrilateral meeting with Russia, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. And also, Afghanistan attended in a number of multilateral setups, meetings like Shanghai Cooperation and SARC. So we had that year where any steps we took or we have taken is about how to put the new move on a solid foundation, involve Afghan people, involve the region, solidify their relations with our partners and friends, and also try to reach all who can help to be an important part of new stabilization efforts in Afghanistan. In a week time, President Karzai will present Afghanistan suggestions now after this year, before January, to launch the transition. President Karzai will present Afghanistan suggestion for a transition plan at NATO summit of heads of state and governments in Lisbon. The summit will address Afghanistan's transition strategy with 2 outcome documents: an Afghan declaration and a NATO-Afghanistan long-term framework agreement. It is a new beginning through signing of these documents, and these documents will frame NATO-Afghan relationship not only through 2014, but establishing steps that is needed for a long-term partnership that will endure beyond the completion of NATO combat mission in 2014. So the main elements of the transition, which everybody will know about it more after Lisbon, will include security with its three components: the military efforts, the training of Afghan national forces, and also the reintegration and reconciliation process. The second element of the transition would be the focus on governance, with building more functioning, more competent government at local and national level, and a practical plan of province by province on this, and also a focus on bringing more clean and government in a governance that's based on rule of law. In other words, strengthening the rule of law and the quality of the governance at all levels. And the third element would be the development and job creation. And the fourth cross-cutting issue is again the region, and there's Pakistan's issue. We tried to go an extra mile. We opened the door and talked with the military leaders there. We moved to address the areas that is the concern of Pakistan, and we sought to balance our relationship with Pakistan in all areas by expanding trade in all ties. But what we expect from Pakistan is an exchange, is how Pakistan is ready to fully partner itself with stabilization efforts in Afghanistan, and to help to create a stable and peaceful Afghanistan. With Iran, we continue the constructive, mutually beneficial, positive relationship, and we would like Iran to be part of the stabilization efforts. We hope the Lisbon Conference would help to address some of the perceptions about a post-NATO region, post-NATO Afghanistan. Some of the countries in the region prematurely tried to move towards such an outcome in 2011. We are going towards 2014, and the Lisbon also will mark the strategic partnership between Afghanistan and the international community beyond 2014. And that would affect the regional context and would help to bring the regional cooperation. I think I have just at the end, that conclusion, to say that there are three questions that may remain to be addressed. And timing is crucial for these questions. One, how can Afghanistan work closely and effectively in years ahead with its international partners? Secondly, when will the attitude of Afghan neighbors, particularly Pakistan, would change? Third, how can we move peace talks toward the end goal of reconciling the enemy, the enemies? As a concluding remark, I have to say that despite difficulties, Afghanistan is not a lost cause. One, because I have no time to elaborate it. Second, Taliban are not going to be the winners. And third, 9 years of effort in sweat and blood should not be a simple waste. We should not accept that the sacrifices were for nothing. And maybe as the last thing, I have to say that let's remind ourselves that we all have a moral responsibility to the Afghan people